You're listening to the Ethos Athletes podcast, where we believe that your health is the number one resource you need to accomplish your dreams. My name is Dr. Matthew Hernandez, and I'm a physician dedicated to helping my patients maintain their active lifestyle and continue doing what they love. I'm sitting down with other experts so that we can provide our listeners with the knowledge they need to improve their health and live their best life. Hey everyone, so you're listening to the Ethos Athletes podcast, and for our episode today, we're going to be discussing endocrine disruptors and their effects on hormones. So for this particular episode, we have Dr. Alexandra Mayer, who's from Ethos Integrative Medicine, where she specializes in medical aesthetics and women's hormones. So Dr. Alex, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And then we also have, back by popular demand, Kelli Michelle, the owner of Keep Moving Forward, where she works with individuals on improving their nutrition and helping them achieve their goals. So Kelli, welcome back.
Thank you.
We've been fielding a lot of questions regarding endocrine disruptors. What are they? How do they affect our body? Where do we find them? And I think what we're going to surprise a lot of people with today is how often they are exposed to these endocrine disruptors and the damage it does to your body, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
So for starters, I'm going to go ahead and just discuss a little bit of what an endocrine disruptor is. And essentially, these are chemicals that exist in our world, whether they're, some of them are natural, some are manufactured, many of them are manufactured. Mm-hmm. And what they do in your body is they can actually go and disrupt your hormones. And we're going to get into more detail about that. But at the end of the day, there's three basic ways that they can disrupt and alter our hormone levels. One of them is they can be hormone mimickers. So they go and an example of this would be like a phytoestrogen, that's found in soy products. And so soy products contain a few different chemicals that mimic estrogen. And so essentially, if you are exposed to a lot of soy products, you eat a lot of soy products, they can essentially overstimulate your estrogen receptors in your body and give you higher levels of estrogen than normal. So that's one way. So hormone mimickers is one pathway. Another one is they can block, endocrine disruptors can block hormone receptors on the cell. So this is another whole group of chemicals, and this is where a lot of them fall into, where they actually go and block your hormone's ability to attach to a cell and make the cell function until, remember, hormones are signaling molecules. If they're blocked from touching the cell, then we have an issue with telling the cell what that hormone was supposed to do, right? And so we lose that hormone's ability to make an impact on that cell. And the other one is that endocrine disruptors can change hormone metabolism and how they're metabolized in the liver, stuff like that, which can then cause either a lower amount of hormone or a higher amount of hormone, depending on the chemical and all this other stuff. So those are just some of the basics. Now let's get into why we care about all that and how it affects our body. Dr. Alex, can you tell us a little bit about, we've talked about hormones in the past. Let's review some of the hormones that we're interested in as far as endocrine disruptors go and what they can affect.
So some of the hormones you're interested in when you think about endocrine disruptors are really all of your sex hormones. So estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and thyroid are the ones that you think of the most when you think of endocrine disruptors and their effect in the body. Mainly your sex hormones are the number one, but I would put thyroid in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just to learn a little bit of basics about hormones, if you haven't listened to our women's and men's hormone podcast, it was probably, episode 14 or something like that, around that.
It's early.
I don't know the exact episode, but it's early in the podcast. You can learn some of the basic functions on that, on what these hormones do and everything. And so you feel free to go listen to those episodes. So how often are we exposed to these things? And I'll open this up to both of you.
Constantly,
every day, every minute of the day.
Every minute of the yeah. So I was, Kelli and I were talking earlier on, and I was telling her how there's a statistic out there that says that in the morning, an average female from the time she gets up to the time she leaves her house in the morning puts 30 personal care products on her skin. Mm-hmm. Most of those our skincare is getting a lot better, but the majority of people that are using not great brands of skincare, every single one of those has an endocrine disruptor in it. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the way that we even deliver hormones to the body, right? So you think about like patches, right? Like transdermal medication delivery. It's a super effective way to deliver things to the body. And then we're putting on these things that are filled with chemicals every single day. So that's from like what, 8 to 8:15 a.m.
Yeah.
That's how many, you get 30 from 8 to 8:15 a.m. And then you go and you drink your plastic water bottle and you eat your lunch out of your plastic container. And it really adds up fast.
It does. Yeah. And it's interesting from a nutrition perspective how people are so aware or almost hyper-focused on what they can do with their nutrition, but they don't realize that what's under the hood is actually broken because of what they've been doing in their household.
100%. You know, and what I learned when we did environmental medicine, we were taught by, his name's Dr. Walter Crinian.
Yep.
And he's really like the father of environmental medicine. And in his class, I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do anything to fix any of this ever. And it's not true, right? Like, nobody's 100% perfect. And
I thought that too. I was like, I have to give up the MAC products and I have to give up, all of my favorite cooking products. And but it's really, there's such a big, vast variety of things that you can do out there that are so much better than what we are doing. People just don't know.
Absolutely. And it's about kind of making small changes, right? And like one change. So when I talk to my patients about this kind of stuff, you take your small steps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like anything. If you can get really good at limiting household toxins in your cleaning products first. Start there.
Yep.
And that adjustment for me was so easy because of Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
We can pretty much get anything on Amazon Prime. And when I even looked for cookingware, I bought new cookingware and glass containers and everything, and found them reasonably priced too, which was something that was kind of a apprehension in my mind, was switching over to some of these things that were going to have less, toxic burden. Was this going to be a really expensive change?
Yeah, absolutely.
The skincare is an expensive change.
The skincare is, but if you can I feel like if you switch to a brand that has less toxins or is a medical grade brand,
right,
then your skin's going to thank you for it in the long run anyway, and you're going to spend less on your procedures. So it's just like an earlier investment. It's like a savings account.
For sure. And I think, Dr. Alex, one of the questions that I get asked a lot from people is, is it really imperative that we don't drink water out of plastic bottles? Is it really imperative that we don't heat up our food in the microwave?
Yes.
In plastic containers, etc.
Yes, it is imperative. The amount of plastic that we use really is mind-boggling, and it's so funny to me because I see a lot of people that are very healthy, right? Like you do in your community, right?
Yeah, I do.
Like they work out, they train, maybe they're training for shows, and then I watch them drinking their gallon water out of their gallon plastic thing, and I'm like, oh my God, seriously?
No.
It's one of those things where you really do need to switch it, and I firmly believe that the research is showing that a lot of the low testosterone that we're seeing in men and things like that really is related to environmental estrogens. Plastic being environmental estrogens. So I think in terms of a lot of the low testosterone, a lot of the low hormones that we're seeing, environmental estrogens play a huge role.
Do we have access to, I know this is such a hard question because I answer this question a lot, but do we really have access to organic food, if you will, as far as, is it truly without pesticides? Is it, it's so hard.
That's such a hard question. I mean, in this country, it's such a hard question, like with winds and stuff like that, right? Like it really is very different. Our standards are so low, unfortunately, for stuff like that it becomes hard. I always just tell patients, do their best. Like, that's what I say. That's
what I say, too, because it's really hard. And then you start to become, this over-analyzer of every small, minuscule detail. But, I think people want to know, what's the highest priority thing that you can change that will make the greatest impact? What do you think, the first few things that you could eliminate from the household or from the environment that you are in most often?
Plastic water bottles. Plastic containers, Those would be my first two. And then I would say your skincare. And I would really start with your skincare. Like shampoos and stuff like that are also full of toxins, but they're a lot more challenging to switch over. So switch over your skincare to something great. And those would be the three things that I would start with. But the most toxic thing is actually your dryer sheets. Dryer sheets are like the most toxic thing in your entire household, which blew my mind. So switching those over to like a more natural brand is also a really good option.
I use the Myers brand, you guys, and I found it to be awesome. My clothing doesn't smell as fragrant, but I'm pretty sure that that's a good sign.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's definitely a good thing.
It is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been impressed with the Myers brand. That was an easy switch for me, and so was a laundry detergent because I noticed that they mimicked the same chemicals in the detergent that they mimicked in the dryer sheets. It was astounding. You're right.
The dryer sheets are crazy. Like when you start to look at it, it really is crazy how toxic they are.
They are very toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just for that nice smell, you know, and that nonstick.
The other thing that being from Canada is really hard for me here is the shoes in the house. So one of the things that you can do is actually take off your shoes when you enter your house because you're carrying in so many environmental toxins into your home, right, where you're living. And so it's interesting to me because I think coming from somewhere where we have snow, it's just, in Canada, you just take your shoes off when you enter somebody's home. It's just the way it is. And so it took me a long time to get used to not doing that here. And I think it's a good habit to have to keep your shoes at the front door.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do you see mostly with the shoe wearing? What do you see is a predominant endocrine disruptor, or what ones are very predominant?
Well, a lot of it's less so what you would think of with an endocrine disruptor, but in terms of like toxins, you're carrying in most of those environmental toxins that you think about, like
the oils off of the road, and
think about pesticides too. Like if you're walking through grass, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you're bringing that in every time you.
It's true.
Yeah, if the grass has been sprayed with pesticide and all that, like.
Yeah, so it's definitely less of an endocrine disruptor, more closer to a toxin. Mm-hmm. But in terms of kind of avoiding things, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
One thing that we learned in Dr. Krinian's class was also the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, right? Do you want to speak a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 is a list that they put out every year, I believe, on what the best foods to buy organic and the foods that you can basically save your money on. Mm-hmm. Things like spinach, berries, things like that if you think about it, they have thin skins. They're usually grown above the ground, and you don't peel them, are really things that you want to get organic every single time.
Yeah.
As much as possible. I mean, like you said.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's 100% organic at this point, but at least it's better than...
I think it's just kind of like the same thing as like, you know, if you have kidney disease or you've got issues with kidney stones, right? Now you've got these foods that people consider to be very healthy as having oxalates, right? And so now we've got a whole different set of rules for different people, and then people without a kidney disorder go, oh, I shouldn't have oxalates, and it's like, oh, now we've got all these, you know, distracting things that everyone thinks that they need to do because their friend does it, and they don't realize that each person has so many different characteristics of, you know, their internal functioning system.
Yeah, you have to tailor it.
Could be very different. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think, you know, the organic food thing is a question that I get a lot of, and you know, it's hard for me because I'm not going to sell snake oil, and I'm not going to sell people, you know, misinformation. And so it's very hard for me to say, yes, you need to buy all organic, because the truth is that there are also things that are grown organically that have pesticides on them also,
right. Yeah,
you know,
sure.
and so it's really hard for me to buy into that when the data just shows that that's not the case. They all have a certain amount of pesticides.
Right. They all do have a certain amount of pesticides for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with the research on pesticides, and particularly pesticides with infertility. There is a huge correlation between pesticides and infertility.
I know this to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where if you think about hormones, right, like, and the way that they disrupt your hormones.
Yeah.
I think you just do the best you can.
Yeah.
Right? With all this, you just do the best you can.
You do.
Yeah.
And I noticed that too. We were actually just discussing before we went live infertility and, you know, the factors that you have to look at when you have somebody that has been told that they're infertile, and obviously if they've gone to a specialist and the specialist says, we're not sure, but we're going to put you on these supplements and so on and so forth, a lot of times that can be completely fixed with balancing hormones, eliminating some of the household toxins, and getting proper nutrition and sleep. And, we were kind of just not even laughing about it, but just saying how ironic it was that a lot of these people have been probably told that they need thousands of dollars worth of
IVF.
Yes, and they've never tried to change some of the things that because they want it right now. They want it right now.
But what they
I'm gonna cover that in the mastermind group, the Magic Pill and Band-Aid Society. And a lot of times they're treating symptoms versus looking at what is really the problem here. And what I love about nutrition is that it doesn't fix everything, but it sure can get you there faster. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, you can't, you're not going to be able to eat and cure this with just eating. You're going to have to change some of your behaviors at home. And really, I was like shocked at how easy it is to get rid of some of these things out of your house, and how awesome some of the skincare products are that are not MAC or, and I, again, guys, I am a huge MAC lover. I'm a huge makeup lover, but I've been surprised that some of these natural makeup lines are so nice.
Yeah, some of them are great.
Yes.
And
they really are.
Yeah, and what I tell patients is, especially with skincare and makeup, you do not have to go organic. Because if you think about it, the standard for organic is different in different countries. So the line that I use is a medical grade line, but they're not considered organic because they actually source their botanicals from other countries.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're not clean. They don't have parabens, they don't have phthalates. They're fragrance free. So they're clean. It's just not organic, right?
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to go that way. And I think that's what a lot of people think. Oh man, I have to pick the most organic line, or wash my face with coconut oil.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Please don't do that.
No.
And it's interesting to me because I just see so many patients where you're really looking at their hormone profile, right?
Right.
And you're seeing all of these changes in their hormones, super low testosterone, stuff like that. And then you look at their habits at home, and really the majority of them do have plastic water bottle habits, and they do have cooking in plastic containers and stuff like that. That's usually my first step.
And a lot of my clients ask, should I be using my microwave, for a lot of these meals? I know that you recommend some convenient meals, and I'm like, it's like supplementation. If you have to supplement, then supplement. If you have to use the microwave because it's all you have access to, ask yourself if you could eat whatever it is that you're trying to heat up. Could you eat that cold? And so people are always astonished. They're like, you like your oatmeal cold, you like all these things cold. And I'm like, well, yeah, I was a competitor, so I ate everything cold out of convenience. But it really did teach me, that I didn't have to heat up every single thing. That if I had palatable foods that were actually better cold versus hot, I could add applesauce to make the texture better, or, some seasonings to make the texture better, and just eat a cold salad with a piece of protein on top that was actually cold instead of heating it up. And again, in my opinion, from the research that I've read, the microwaving is in the plastic containers is just...
It's the worst.
It's like water bottles in our Arizona heat, and then you drink out of it when you get back in the car.
You find them on your car floor.
Yeah.
That's a good point to make. Don't drink water bottles that have been sitting in
People
your car in
still
Arizona
don't know.
heat. Yeah,
Yeah, they still don't know. And another thing that I heard, last week, and I wanted to do some reading on it, so I have, is, getting into your car after your car has cooled down and has all those coolants and all of those chemicals, for the engine and the motor, and having the windows up in the car, and you get into the car in the morning, and the first thing you do is turn your AC or your heater on. And for a lot of people, it's the heater. And, what they recommended is to crack the windows and not turn the heater on and let the car warm up and allow that air that's been stagnant in the car to get out of the car.
Get flushed out.
Before you, and I thought, oh my gosh, here's another thing I haven't researched, but wildly, but it makes complete sense,
It makes sense, yeah.
Not only that, we're in an environment that our population has grown so much. We have so much more, so many more vehicles on the road, and just it's wild. So we don't think about those things because we're just living in that world.
Yeah, you don't think about it. And that's the thing is there are certain things in environmental medicine that are in your control.
Yep.
And then there's certain things in environmental medicine that 100% are not in your control.
Yep.
And so don't focus on that.
Yep.
Focus on the rest of it, and go from there. But even I noticed, so I have a decent number of patients that are hairstylists.
Yes.
And I noticed that hairstylists always have the most messed up hormones, and they have the most chemical sensitivity out of everyone that I see. And I think a lot of that is that constant toxic burden.
Interesting.
So oftentimes in hairstylists, I will actually recommend that they get an air filter at home and an air filter at work, like an IQ Air. They're expensive, but they do their job. Because you don't think about it, but hairstylists really do.
Yes.
They are that population.
Yep. They are. And speaking of that, I actually have one that I can think of right now that works with me in nutrition and has had a lot of, endocrine disruption and food intolerances and different things. And, I'm always interested, is it really a food intolerance or is it an endocrine disruption issue?
See, and that's what I'm always interested about too, because when you read about gluten particularly, right? Like you read about gluten intolerance and then you can go to Italy and they process their gluten completely different. You have no problem with it.
Yep.
But then here we have a problem with it. And a lot of that is, I think, related to the pesticides and things like that we put on the gluten, the way that we process it.
And just how hybrid that gluten has become with population growth here and feeding. And I have a friend who's in farming, and he said, Kelli, yes, the data shows the hybrid is completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
than
sure.
20 years ago even. It's just completely different.
Yeah. Oh,
so
100%.
Whether we've got a gluten intolerance, and again, they'll argue gluten intolerance, and people who have true celiac know that they cannot have it. Where I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm gluten intolerant because they want to be in that club.
Yeah.
It gives them ownership to that club that they can be in, because they have not actually identified what it is about their system that they cannot tolerate.
Yep.
And I think sometimes that therein lies the confusion. And, we could even do a whole separate episode on fibromyalgia, right? Which, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, is an autoimmune disease that we have not been able to put our finger on.
I would agree with that.
And so we've just labeled you.
Yep.
You are a whatever.
Well, and that's the other interesting thing with endocrine disruptors and toxins in general.
Yeah.
Is you look at the amount of autoimmune disease that we have, and the amount of autoimmune disease is on the rise.
Oh.
Like Hashimoto's is on the rise. Oh my gosh.
PCOS too is not autoimmune, but if you look at it,
it's on the rise.
It is on the rise.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And the amount of people that you think that are diagnosed with autoimmune diseases, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, all of those things, right? Like, it wasn't that common not that long ago.
Right.
And now it's very common. And a lot of the speculation around that is related to endocrine disruptors. It's related to the toxins in the environment.
Yeah. What do we know about silicone? Have you done any extensive research on silicone?
I have not done any extensive research on silicone.
That'll
but I know
be
you've been reading up on it. What have you learned?
I have been reading up on it, folks. I've spent hours and hours in these PubMed and CHI, and it's nothing nice.
No.
It's especially nothing nice when it comes to cancer. And a lot of the other things are there's not enough data and not enough research done to draw some conclusive, assumptions about whether or not silicone is causing, more than just cancer, but endocrine disruption. And I would say that I've made some really great correlations, and I'm excited to see new research now with people having breast implants removed, explant they call it, and just have those symptoms that they've been feeling gone away. And have they gone away quickly, or have some of them taken a longer period of time? And we know that there are a lot of endocrine disruptions too that happen that take quite a while to reverse the symptoms of.
Absolutely. Yes, they do. They do.
When you have people that have done things that change the estrogen in the system, that's a difficult one to reverse quickly.
It is. It is. And even the pathway of the way you metabolize your estrogen changes.
Yes.
Like, it really does take a lot. Like, take a little bit more time to fix that.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing, I mean, with testosterone. Like, if you're suffering from low testosterone, and endocrine disruptors play a part in that, you know, the mainstay of treatment is just give a whole bunch of testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to question if maybe you need to take a lifestyle approach, maybe add some Clomid, you know, do something to kind of boost testosterone production.
Yeah.
It's slower.
It is.
Right? So sometimes patients don't like that, but you really got to look at it.
I agree. Yeah. And it's almost worse, I think, if you take an aggressive approach to that treatment versus kind of being a technician and looking at all of the variables in that equation first, saying, is this the cause? Or if we treat this now, do we have 3 other things that we have to
address?
Yeah, address.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
You know, and as the nutritionist, it's really difficult because people think they put so much on nutrition. They think nutrition can fix everything because of all the memes out there, you know, the memes that are like, oh, you can heal anything with your nutrition. And it's like, well, that's not true. I do agree that you can really fix it a lot faster if you change some of your behaviors at home and your nutrition, in addition to, you know, the hormone, the balancing of the hormones.
Yes.
It's imperative.
Absolutely.
Because those hormones affect metabolism, and we can't change the metabolism with just nutrition alone. We need to have both pieces of the puzzle.
Yes, you definitely need to have both pieces.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people are missing, right? Like, there's so many people that come in that I feel like have this idea that they can do it on their own, right? Like,
oh, yes.
They have they eat clean and they can do it on their own. And then you realize they just spin their wheels, right? And it's very frustrating, and it's because you really do need to do both. You know?
do. And then you hear their version of clean eating, which is also really quite entertaining.
It is entertaining.
It is interesting to see, for sure.
It is.
I think you know, if we went out onto the street and asked people what clean eating is, we'd get a lot of different ideas of clean eating.
You would. Whenever anybody says they eat clean, I just kind of go, okay.
Clean eating.
And then I go on with my questions because I'm like, it's going to be something.
You just kind of skim over that one. I do skim over it because I'm like, yeah, they're not going to be eating like this, and they haven't been anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You have to make things practical and applicable. And I think educating is what we always go back to. It's like people just don't know, and it's not their fault.
Yep.
Because they've read all of this misinformation, or they've read no information.
Yep.
So it goes back to just bit by bit giving, and this is what I've found successful with my program too, with nutrition is, oh, they don't know about potassium? Well, let's just give them some information, and then let's tell them not to be extreme, because it's like fiber, right?
Yep.
You tell people that they need fiber, now they're eating 3 times the amount of fiber that they actually need, and you're like, that's so American.
Yeah.
That's so American, you know?
We don't
We
do anything
should
little.
overdo it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I think, you know, with endocrine disruptors, like Alex said, you know, if you start with these small things and you start noticing a difference already in the color of your eye, in the clarity in your eyes, because that's what I notice a lot with sick people that complain about food intolerances, complain about joint pain.
Yep.
Their eyes look very foggy and not clear. A lot of them are dehydrated, and a lot of them eat very high sodium and low potassium, and magnesium. So if you can fix some of the mineral insufficiency alongside the endocrine disruption as well, that's why nutrition should be a key component. And again, we talk about food quality, and it's like, what do you do, you know?
Well, and that's the thing, is like sometimes, like you said, you have to supplement, but you can still make good choices.
Right.
And so it's interesting to me because there's a lot of people that are eating, you know, protein with soy protein isolate and stuff like that in it. And to me, I mean, I use phytoestrogens in my practice as a way to mimic estrogen in menopausal women. Now, I do it with botanicals, but it's still a phytoestrogen. And that's how strong it is, that I have some women who make it all the way through menopause on just a botanical phytoestrogen supplement.
Yeah.
And then we go and we take this very GMO processed soy, and we assume that's okay to consume, and it's not. The other thing is that I noticed with like protein powders, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a protein powder, but you really have to look and see what's in it.
Oh, you do.
You know, even this weekend, Dr. Matt and I were looking for protein powder because we needed to supplement. And I'm turning it over, and there's like the list of ingredients and additives
Thousands.
and carrageenan and everything.
Yeah, it's really true.
You know, so I just turn it over and I say, okay, can I find one that doesn't have carrageenan in it and soy protein isolate? And then
did you find one?
I did.
Great.
We did. We found a whey one at the market in San Antonio, and it was great.
So unbelievable that people think that supplements are like the holy grail, and you know, I'm always like, is it microfiltered?
Yeah.
How is it heat tempered? Is it this?
Right.
Is it
Yeah.
how many
Is it
ingredients?
stable? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot
on
of
the back
factors
of
that go
it,
into it.
Yeah. And can you pronounce them? Like,
Can
are
you
they
pronounce
real
them?
ingredients, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And
it's so true.
That's what I noticed. Like, I think we turned over, God, I don't even know how
Probably
many
a half a
bottles
dozen
we
at
turned
least.
over. And I was like,
There's
no.
Yep.
Yeah, there's only 2 that we found that didn't have it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I oftentimes will go to like a different store and just see what product they have there out of convenience for people's shopping.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, 3/4 of what is on the shelf, I would never take myself. And
No, I would never put it in my body.
No.
But that's the thing. And then you have these people that are like, oh, I'm being healthy. I'm going to have a protein shake every day.
I know.
And you're like, okay. But then their protein shake's filled with
700
carrageenan and soy
fillers.
and fillers. And you're like, that's not doing your GI tract any benefit.
No,
right?
and GI tract.
Or your hormones.
Yeah, right. And now what we know between, you know, brain and gut, the first and second brain, is that if one thing is off in that endocrine system, it could really affect the way that the brain actually receives the message.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, we've got depression and anxiety also at an all-time high right now. And I would be willing to put money on endocrine disruption as a part of that.
Absolutely.
I would be willing. And I know that there are a lot of studies that have been done on that. I haven't actually had a chance to look into that yet because I am up every night looking at silicone right now. Still looking at silicone.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, to get through those research reviews and to have, you know, to see the abstract and to understand exactly what's going on, it really does take a lot of time.
Absolutely.
You have to concentrate, and you've got to be able to understand that correlation is not always causation. And a lot of Americans live their life based off of, well, my friend, correlation. Well, so-and-so at my gym says correlation.
Yeah.
So-and-so says correlation.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard, and you don't want to undermine people because I like that they're thinking.
Yeah.
But you're really not thinking if you're like, well, so-and-so says, well, read about it.
Yeah, research it.
Because you can find great information on the world web, right? It's wide and it's vast, and we've got a lot of great information on there, but there's also a lot of really bad information. So, you know, don't get gurued by these Dr. Axe ads. You guys are selling product.
Right.
If you look at anything and at the end of that dissertation, they're selling you a product, you need to be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to question it.
Yeah, they're selling you a product.
Yep.
That is magically going to heal your gut.
Right.
See how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally not how
Snake
that works.
oil.
Yeah.
Snake oil.
Well, and that's why people think, oh, well, supplementation doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work, but you need to look at the science of the individual nutrients.
Yeah.
What are they doing? And then go and pick a good company. Like, it's not, you know.
Right, and the other thing I wanted to ask you in particular, because I think this is something that I get asked a lot, is what happens if you're treating something that doesn't need to be treated? What kind of effects can that supplementation have on you in a negative way?
So, I mean, it definitely can have a negative effect, right? So it really depends. Like, if we're looking at, like, nutrients, the majority of people, when they're taking, like, B12 shots, for example, and they don't need B12.
That's what I really wanted you to address.
Yeah. Like, the majority of people are going to urinate it out, right? But what if your kidneys aren't functioning as well as they could be? You can end up with high B12. The other thing that I see a lot is vitamin D. Everybody thinks that they need to be on vitamin D. Now, thank God, most people aren't taking super high doses.
Yeah.
But it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you're not getting rid of that. That means if you're high, you're going to be high. So you really need to watch these things before. And monitor them before you take them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I see a lot is like hormones, right? Because you can't just take hormones because it will shut down your hormone production, right? Like every hormone in the body has this negative feedback loop where the hormones produce and then it goes back to the brain and says, we don't need any more of that. We're good. We're solid. Yep. And so at that point, you're shutting down your hormone production, which is why you really have to be careful when you, in younger women starting on high levels of hormone production, because you're really going to shut down their own production of their hormones. Sometimes I think you just need to take an approach and look at it. I'm all about taking the least amount of things as possible. Yeah. In my practice, like I mean, I use a lot of hormones in my practice and stuff like that, but in my practice for supplementation, if you are on more than 5 things gives me severe anxiety. Anything over 5 things, I can't do it.
Now, guys, this is a natural medicine doctor.
Anxiety. Normally, my patients are on 3 things. 5 things is my maximum. And then if there's 5 things, I'll go, okay, look, we're going to take you off of this when we get you here. We're going to take you off of this when we get you here. Yeah. And then you're going to be left with your multivitamin and your fish oil. Yeah. Like, I don't like that. And I see these patients come in because, you know, they read on something.
Oh, my gosh.
Astaxanthin is great for them, so now they're on astaxanthin. And they read on this thing that this is great for them, so now they're on this. And they're on, like, 25 supplements. And I think, man, if you just save that money, you can go on vacation.
Sure. You know? That's so true.
Yeah.
Even, you know, and I just want to bring this up because this is something that I hear a lot in, you know, in my job and in my industry is the SIBO protocol. And just how these doctors are making so much money on the AIP and SIBO protocol. And there's like 10 to 15 supplements in each cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they ask me and my heart cracks in half because I'm like, how do I say this? But my clients are very open to, okay, Kelli, what do we really need? And I say this, this, and this.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And they complete the SIBO protocol, and it's...
Well, and the craziest part for me with SIBO in particular is that it's really very poorly treated. Like, it really needs to be treated in a phase-like symptom, and the best way to treat or a phase-like series, right?
Yeah,
and the
I agree.
best way to treat SIBO is actually with antibiotics.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, the only time I go to a crazy supplement regimen, which again gives me anxiety when I do it, but I only do it in my patients that don't respond to the antibiotics.
Sure.
That's
exactly what the research says too. So
yep, and that's where you should start. And then the autoimmune protocols, they're a challenge sometimes. Like, I've gotten some stuff to my office that I question sometimes. You know, and
the food lists, you mean? Or the list of supplements that they send you.
The list of supplements. Yeah. It's the list of supplements.
Yeah, I see them too because they're attached to the AIP protocol that is very rigid, by the way. Yeah. You know, there's several different versions of the AIP protocol, and most recently I've seen some that I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
What are you going to eat?
Yeah.
Are you going to eat anything? You can't even hit your macros.
Right.
With this protocol.
Yeah, well, and that's the trouble. I think I'm just such I'm such an easygoing, middle of the road kind of person that super extreme does not work for me. Yeah. It doesn't work for me, and so I assume it won't work for most of my patients.
It's true.
So even the other day I had 2 patients I had to put on SIBO diet, and I mean, yes, you're supposed to do the SIBO diet. Like, some people say they do it for like 5 years or more, and I'm like, I don't know that that's ever going to work for me. Like, I don't know. So I just kind of like told my patients, we'll take it step by step. You know, we'll do our thing because
after 5 years, you're on a lifestyle that works for you, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like ketogenic dieting. You know, like, I'm not against ketogenic dieting. I'm against bullshit dieting. Is what I'm against. Yeah, that's what I'm against.
Well, and I'm against something that's not going to work long term. Like, if you can't sustain it, don't do it. Yeah. Because all you're going to do is you're going to go down, and then it's going to come back up again. Spend all this money go down.
The appropriate supplementation for this new fad diet. Yep. And, you know, if you can sustain it, cool. But you're right. You know, you don't want to see these people back with you over and over and over again because what they're clearly doing has very little legitimacy to the overall outcome being beneficial. Yep. Right? Like, it's just so counterproductive.
It is.
In my opinion.
And I don't know. I just feel like things don't need to be that hard.
No. They shouldn't.
You know?
No.
Yeah. It shouldn't be rocket science. It doesn't need to be that hard.
No. No.
What I think is so interesting, we were talking about earlier, was your correlation that you're noticing in your practice with people with breast implants, women with breast implants, and autoimmune disease.
We are definitely going to do a second episode on this. I'm going to meet with some of the best experts in this field here very soon. But what I've been asking is just questions of the clients that I know have silicone or saline breast implants, which, by the way, saline has a silicone pocket.
Yep.
So, again, and they're capsuled. So all implants are capsuled. And the capsule around the implant is where they normally find, the diseased cells. So the whole capsule needs to be removed if somebody's getting an explant. But what I've noticed with my clients who have implants is 50% of them have hypothyroidism. And the hypothyroidism was not discovered until after many years of the implant. In fact, a few of them that I asked have only had implants for 3 or less years, and they have hypothyroidism. So I'm very interested.
That's crazy.
I'm very, very interested to understand more about that correlation, and if it's just correlation and not causation. But it sparked me to do more research too on cancer and lymphoma, and it's crazy how much new data there is out on silicone and its correlation with breast cancer and cancers.
Well, and it's so interesting to me because a lot of plastic surgeons that do a lot of breast implants aren't even necessarily denying the research at this point.
No, they're not. And, a lot of them are very proactive because, again, it was your choice to get them. So it's also your choice to take them out.
Yeah.
And certain people, they say, have absolutely no problems with them. In fact, that's what I found with my population too, is that some women absolutely love them. They haven't noticed any issues with them.
That makes sense.
And a lot of them have actually had explants and a new implant. So I just wanted to know a little more information about, the people that I talk to on a regular basis. And there were some of them that the wheels were really turning when they realized that there was a lot of correlation between their autoimmune and the implants. Lupus.
I think that's very, very interesting.
I will say this Hashimoto's came up more frequently, and again, hypothyroidism. So what we know about that is, if it once the thyroid is off, so many different things now can be depression and anxiety. A lot of anxiety was associated
of anxiety with hypothyroidism.
Yeah, with hypothyroidism.
Yep.
And then, just never getting better, being treated on Levo and Leo and never seeing any improvement in the thyroid.
Yep.
Almost like now they need more and they need more. And so I've been asking a lot of thought-provoking questions to my hypothyroid group, my test group. And they've been so great about offering information. So
I'd be very interested to see what you come up with for that, because I have a patient in mind that's very much like that. Like, we are chasing her
with implants.
I don't know, actually.
Okay.
I don't know if she's implant.
I know half the people I was like, do you have implants? I don't know,
No, I'm going to look into her chart now because we are just chasing her
and
Hashimoto's, and it's very challenging.
A lot of doctors are actually putting, do you have breast implants, in their question and answering form. Now that I, think about my last OBGYN testing and a lot of the, in fact, it was the last 2 OBGYN testings and my mammogram, where they ask you about breast implants, and obviously in the mammogram, they're going to see all that.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting that people are now asking that question, and I would say that it's probably provoked for an object question,
Absolutely.
If something is foreign in the body, and we know that the white cells and red cells now are going to react, how is that going to affect the way that the body fights other disease? And
yes,
I don't know that.
And I don't think we have the exact answer.
The science nerd is I'm warming up. I'm just getting warm here, and so my clients were like, ooh, this is great, PhD, I'm like, oh gosh, anytime you say school at this age, I just want to curl into a ball and cry in the corner,
Agreed.
It's probably one of the hardest times of my life, but nonetheless, I think it's something that people need to think about, and they need to do their own reading and their own research and not look to somebody to create that opinion for you. It's what I always say with nutrition too, Yeah. The best diet for you, like we've said in the nutrition series, is the one that long-term you can see yourself doing and enjoying and not being rigid with.
Yep.
Because essentially that's the one that's going to bring you overall fulfillment. And so, when you look at lowering your toxic burden in your household, I think you have to also say, is any of this stuff going to really impact my family adversely? And I was thinking about that as I got rid of, detergent, because I was like, oh, my roommate, he uses the same stuff that I use. So I shared it with him, and he was like, oh, well, we just need to get rid of all of this then, we just need to get rid of this. This is not good, I'm glad you peeped me to the game. And I was like, well, and also the Windex, and also the Clorox bleach in the toilets, and then he's like, you've changed all that stuff already? I'm like, yeah. So I didn't notice.
My parents for Christmas last year, as part of my Christmas, brought me a it starts with a W. Is it Wex?
I have no clue.
So it's a cloth. I'm gonna get you the name of it.
Okay, cool.
Because it's a cloth, and you use it on windows. So there's like an environmental one, and then there's a glass one.
Okay.
It is literally amazing, it's just a cloth, so you don't have to spray anything.
I think my grandma has it,
and it starts with a W.
Rheumatoid arthritis, and she keeps everything out of her household. She's probably watching. Hi, Grandma. and I want to say that for Christmas one year, she bought me a green one, and it takes all of the smudging off the glass, right, with no product.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and they have a glass one and a one that's just like Windex. I literally wash my windows with it. It's amazing.
Okay. Yep. Grandma got me that. Grandma, if you're on, I know she's on right now. She watches everything I do. So she's like, that's my granddaughter. And then my mom does that too. It's pretty cute. But
so what else have you done to change your toxic burden in your home?
I got rid of my dishwashing liquid, so now I'm using all natural dishwashing liquid. What I'll tell you guys with that, especially with the hard water here in Arizona, is you have to wash your dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. Yeah. So I use a liquid soap first and warm water, and then I just dishwash it in the all-natural product. And it doesn't get your dishes as clean as the other one, but really, is it true that it's not as clean, or it just doesn't look as clean, right?
So it just doesn't have that shine.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed with that is it does not leave any debris or film on black dishes or, dishware, because I have darker dishware. And before I was noticing that the Clorox product left kind of a white residue. There's no residue on it. I don't taste any chemical in my food from that sitting on the plates anymore before, you almost feel like you have to rinse off the dish after you get out of the dishwasher, because there's that flavor on the dishes, or dish soap flavor and you're like, oh, maybe I didn't get all the soap off that.
Yeah.
But we don't use any of the Palmolive or any other dish soaps in our house anymore. We've switched over to completely natural product. Even for cleaning the countertops and antibacterial, we've gone to all different, the natural products for that. And then my makeup was next. So I'm doing one thing at a time. So I went to...
That's fair.
Yeah, I went to blush, and I was thinking all the things that are closest to my eyeballs and my nose. So I was like, okay, concealer, foundation, and mascara. I switched all of that over just a couple weeks ago, and I was having some pain behind my eyes when I would, especially with false lashes. So I don't have false lashes, but I have used the strip lashes in the past, and I really love them. I've just gone to no strip lashes at all because the glue is so toxic. And I noticed I had never had a sty in my life, and I only got a sty when I was using the false lashes. And so no liner. I don't use any MAC liners anymore, even though they're so great. And it's hard because with a lot of the natural product lines, they smear a little bit easier.
They do smear a little easier.
They do. And you do have to use a setting spray. So I just went to an all-natural setting spray. So if any of you guys have questions on that, I've been posting on my Instagram the products and the color that I've been using. I've gotten a lot of questions through DM about the natural products, because what works for some people doesn't work well for others, and a lot of it has to do with age and oil, the oil in our skin. Obviously wrinkling, and some people have more wrinkled skin than others, so certain products are not as good.
Yeah.
So I agree. I have a lot of different styles of products, and I'm going to keep trying a whole bunch more because I think that's so fun.
Yeah, and you have to try ones that you'll find one that you like.
Yeah.
It's kind of like trial and error, right? It's trial and error.
It is. I went to Whole Foods and I'm like, man, this stuff is more expensive than Nordstrom.
Yeah. I've heard good things about the Well People brand.
Yeah, I have too. I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, it's been on my list of things to try. My next mascara is going to be that
one. And then Pacifica.
I haven't heard of that one.
For shadows. I haven't actually tried their shadows yet. I've been using blush for shadow, so because I was like, man, this is $20. I'm going to use it for shadow too.
Just putting it on everywhere.
Yeah, I really did. And I love the pinks and the oranges, and those work well on the cheeks too. So I just kind of, do a little bit of a crease with that. And I think if I have to do a smoky eye, I'm going to have to go and get an actual natural palette for that. But it's really fun. The other thing I said last week on Instagram with the natural brow powders, they're not as pigmented, and they don't have as much staying powder. So if you can find a brow gel, the brow gel seems to blend with it a little bit better and keeps it, in place a little longer for people like me that are see-through skinned, that have really blonde brows. My brows are like see-through. So, but for people that don't need a darker brow, the brow tint is actually very good. So that I got the Pacific brand. So It was good. It was not bad. I mean, I'm going to give these products a solid 7, and a lot of times I'd be pretty hard on them. So concealers and things like that, it's hard just because, some of these synthetic products, they do just exactly what the manufacturer. They do
exactly what they say they're going to do.
They sure do.
Yeah.
And it's so lovely, but then if you look at it, you're right. Like now I can open my MAC Pro Longwear and it smells like thinner. It smells like paint thinner.
Yep.
Because I've been away from it for so long, I don't smell it on a normal basis. I threw all that stuff away last week too, so I wouldn't be tempted.
You did?
Yes, I did.
I'm impressed with you.
Oh, I was so. It was like sad, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? This is really good. Because I was such a major Macaholic.
Yep.
And everything I had. And again, I feel bad because some of my reps for MAC will be like, oh my God, she's switched over. But really, like for me with the pain behind the eyes and some of the issues with, endocrine disruption that I've dealt with too, and I'm on levothyroxine and Leo.
Yep.
And, the more I read about it, the less endocrine disruption I can have in my household products, I think the better. It's like, why would you? You know?
Yep.
I say that with nutrition a lot too. It's like, oh, okay, you want to have a Twinkie because it fits your macros. Should you have it every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Right,
yeah, 100%.
Okay, so you could have it, but does that mean that you should have it that every day?
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I found with my own personal care, and again, over time, I would love to see the way that my blood work looks after.
I'm very interested to see that as well.
Yeah, and I was telling Dr. Alex, I took by election this week. I just took all of my supplements out of my diet. I got some lab work done, and I was like, I'm concerned about these things. And so I took my supplements out, and a lot of them, my great friend Katie Cole, she said, what herbals are you on? And, take these out now. And I said, oh, this one has ashwagandha, and this one has yohimbe in it. And she said, yeah, get rid of those right away. So I'm interested to see with removing some of those supplements and lowering my household burden, my toxic burden in my household, and with my pets and everything. It's crazy how many pet products there are out there.
I know.
God, yeah.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
This is like a new industry, right?
It is.
And you have to be careful too because they're making money in a lot of different industries, and so it's like, how carried away do you get with this? And if you could make the decision to be more environmentally friendly too, like, why wouldn't you?
Yep.
I'm so much more aware personally too of, wow, I wonder if this has sulfites in it. And you said hairdressers, my best friend is a hairdresser. So I'm constantly on her about, ventilation and how long were you in front of all those chemicals today? And, you're feeling really tired after your long days of work.
Yeah.
think about that exposure to those chemicals. And
Yep.
I've got a lot of hairdressers and people that are, in aesthetics and lash technicians.
And nails.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And just, people who get the lash extensions on a normal basis. And that worries me too, because there's no long-term data on that either.
No, there isn't. We started very young now too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, I mean, with personal care products and stuff like that, I mean, women are starting at what?
10, 11, 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Women are also starting their cycle at 10, 11, 12 now
Mm-hmm.
too, where they were not starting their cycles
Yep.
at 10, 11, 12, 25, 30 years ago. And so that to me just, it worries me. It sparks more awareness.
Yep.
And
Yep.
makes me awake to, this meat. And again, we've talked about, vegan diets, and we've talked about half vegetarian versus animal product. And, the data is coming out on it, and it's exciting. I love that there's new research being done too on intermittent fasting, because I think there's so much misinformation on a lot of nutrition proponents that have a lot of other variables, in the mix. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we'll hit those, you guys. And as soon as I know more about breast implant illness and, some of the silicone implant information, and I speak to these professionals, I'll be happy to share what I've learned. And I think we will see more really good data coming out on that very soon.
I'm super excited to hear
Yeah.
what you're going to learn from these professionals.
Yeah, I think some people just never thought about it
No, it's something
because it looks so amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, whoa, hey. But it really is. It's important to think about. So
It is. It's all the small changes, right? Like, obviously an explant surgery is a bigger change.
it is a
But
bigger.
there's so many things that you can do day to day that are small. Take it one step at a time.
Yep, agreed. Great explanation, by the way, Matthew, about what endocrine disruptors do in the hormone system. That was an awesome intro.
Good. I'm glad. Hopefully everyone else finds that helpful.
I know, right?
That's my biochemistry background. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I know.
We gave you all a number of tips, everything from explants like Kelli talked about to doing something simple like going and just changing plastic to glass. So glass water bottles, glass containers. If you're going to go and heat up food, make sure it's in a glass container of some sort. And then we also talked about the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. So again, Dirty Dozen are the 12 fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticides here in the U.S. Clean 15 are the ones that have the least amount. So if you buy those on the list, you can buy those regular. But the Dirty Dozen, usually recommend organic. We'll go ahead and put a link to the environmental working group that publishes these reports every year, and you can learn more about endocrine disruptors on there. So we'll put those in the show notes. And yeah, I think it was a great episode. So Dr. Alex, Kelli, thank you for being here again.
Thank you. Pleasure.
We'll have you on another episode, and everyone, thanks for listening.